In life, whenever we experience something truly devastating and the world as we know it kind of comes to an end, one of the most painful realizations is when you see that the rest of the world has kind of moved on. You feel quite insignificant. And that is the exact kind of feeling that Banana Yoshimoto captures in this book. The kitchen. Just kitchen. This is my first time reading anything by this author, Banana Yoshimoto, so I thought I would give you guys a kind of an introduction to who she is. I've been wanting to read books by her for a while, but when I start reading like new author, I tend to usually get an audiobook, but I couldn't find an audiobook for her in English. It's a short book, it's not too big of a commitment, so I just went ahead and got the paperback. It was totally worth it. Banana Yoshimoto is an author from Tokyo, Japan. Banana is not her real name. Her name is Mahoko Yoshimoto, and she was kind of given the pseudonym Banana during her university years. And actually her family, they were quite famous because I believe her father was a poet and her sister was a cartoonist. She picked the name Banana because she felt like the word or the name itself, it sounded quite cute, but at the same time quite androgynous, and she really liked that. And actually it was really interesting because when I read this book, I truly understood where the name kind of came from. By the way, my flowers are dying, but I really wanted to have them in frame today before they completely die away. So hello, and very soon I'll have to say goodbye. Kitchen was actually her debut novel, written in 1988, and there are so many. Actually, this book has two books. The first one was Kitchen and the second one was Moonlight Shadow, and I read that one as well. The first one was about 100 pages, so really not that long, but it did take me a lot of time to finish it or go through it. Not because I was struggling, but because I was really taking in one page at a time. And her writing is something that even if you try, you can't breeze past. There's so much packed into like such compact paragraphs that sometimes you feel like if you try and speed read, you're just going to miss out so much. And even the time period, this was written back in 1988, but I felt like it could have been written at any point in time. It was so beautifully done. There's actually two film adaptations of the book Kitchen, and I believe one of them was Japanese and the other one Chinese, and I actually really want to watch it, but it was done a while ago and I don't know if I can actually find it anywhere, but I'll definitely have a look. I've taken a few notes of the themes that are commonly associated with her, and they're usually the effect of loss on human spirit, exhaustion of young Japanese in contemporary Japan, how dealing with terrible experiences often shapes a person's life, urban existentialism, and being trapped in an imagination against their harsh reality. And all of these themes are actually present in her very first book. When I looked at these themes, I was trying to understand that, okay, I read this book now, I understand it, I really like it, and overall, like, is this her kind of style? Is this what I should expect when I read other books? And all of these themes were present from her very first book, and it seems to be that that's mainly what she writes about, and she does it really well, which is why I'm really excited to kind of move on and read more from this author. In the Kitchen, you are following the story of Mikage Sakurai, and she is actually a very young girl who doesn't have anyone else, like blood relatives, apart from her grandmother. So it's just her and her grandmother who live in this house, and very early on in the story, her grandmother passes away, and she's kind of trying to understand what the meaning of her life is without any kind of blood connection to this world. If nobody who is connected to her by blood is alive, she kind of had this sensation where she found it difficult to attach herself to anything else, and she was kind of left in this period where she didn't really know what she was supposed to process, forget actually processing it. At this point in time, she meets a boy called Yuichi Tanabe, and he lives with his mother, Eriko, and both of them, they actually knew the grandmother really well, and they offered to take Mikage into their household. And Mikage has this way of kind of like every time she enters a space, so she is in a space, she kind of has this way of describing it in a very heartwarming way. And she has a thing for kitchens, and hence the name. And when she enters their house, there's something about the kitchen that she finds very like inviting and comfortable, and immediately she takes on to both Yuichi and Eriko really, really quickly. And she learns something very interesting about Eriko. I think that is kind of the at the core of this book. What I found to be truly extraordinary about this book is the way she talks about how people are expected to live normally or kind of continue normally when they are surrounded by what to them seems like abnormality. When someone is suddenly stripped out of what they believe to be kind of the norm or what they believe to be the true meaning of life, and suddenly they're put into this situation that is everything is new to them, they don't understand quite what's happening, and suddenly amidst all of that you're meant to kind of go on as if it's normal. And that is when you kind of notice this almost kind of a continuous fight between your internal self and your external existence. And that is what was portrayed so well here, in every single character, not just the main protagonist. There is this bit quite early on in the book that really caught my attention. On this truly dark and solitary path we all walk, the only way we can light is our own. Although I was raised with love, I was always lonely. And it kind of shows like how Mikage feels about what is happening around her, because of course we have people in our lives that we love, who we're meant to be loved by, and we always feel that if they are to be taken away from us, life itself will lose meaning and you will never be able to survive that. But she kind of talks about how, everything was indeed taken away from her, and she didn't quite know what she was meant to do and how she was meant to feel or continue surviving, but at the same time she did. And it's because at every given point in time, the only person you truly have is yourself. And it's kind of that realization that although we're surrounded by people, at every given point in time, we are just ourselves and we are alone in every sense of the way. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, as people often associate loneliness to be this negative or like something that nobody wants. But most of us live in some form of loneliness and maybe don't realize. Another kind of theme that was there in the book is like when Mikage experienced all this loss, she felt like she was just surrounded by death and by loss. And every time she introduces someone new to her life or forms a connection, she was scared to kind of involve them in her kind of complexity or in her life, or kind of bring them down with her, in the fear that they too will kind of be surrounded by death and loneliness, and as a result kind of make yourself lonely. You become lonely. She became quite afraid to hope, to wish, to have, because then she might lose. And I guess the biggest kind of takeaway from this book was that how often when we lose things a lot, or we are not in the habit of having something, we don't know how to accept it, or we don't know how to make it a part of our life. We tend to push things away when we are not in the habit of having them in the first place. Even things like love and care, which you think people will accept it at the first chance they get, but a lot of the times if you're not in the habit of being loved, if you're not in the habit of being cared for, it is difficult to put yourself out there and actually accept it, because you don't know what it truly means to be loved or what it truly means to be cared about. And sometimes people talk about love language, or what is your way of being loved. Just to give you an example, for me, love might be when someone gives me some space, when someone lets me be kind of authentically myself, doesn't kind of invade too much into my world, and their life plan and my life plan can kind of coexist without kind of merging into this one big idea of something that might be unattainable because none of us truly completely want it. And not realizing what you want from a relationship can make being in relationships quite exhausting. There is just so much amazing stuff packed into this tiny book. I mean, there is no excuse for you guys not to pick it up and give it a read. One criticism, not of the book, of the publisher, Faber and Faber. I have read quite a few of their books, and I've realized this thing, that whenever I use markers, it kind of goes on to the other page, and I don't really like it. I've tried other mass market paperbacks, like even Colin Classics, that they don't fade into other pages, and I prefer that a lot more. So I don't know if I recommend this edition, but I know that in the UK this is the only paperback edition available, but just thought I'd say that in case people are quite picky about their paperbacks and their editions. If you're someone who has read any books by her, or if you are familiar with Banana Yoshimoto or any other authors who sound like they write in a similar theme, let me know. I would love to try it. This year I am trying to venture out more into kind of Southeast Asian authors, and I would love to read more from countries like Vietnam or Philippines. It's difficult to find translated works easily, but if you guys know of any, please let me know. because that's kind of my reading kind of goal for the year. I want to read from as many Southeast Asian authors as possible. If you frequently watch my videos, please do subscribe if you're enjoying them. And yeah, that's all. I'll be back with a new book video soon. So until then, take care, stay safe, and see you in the next video.